This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
I was trying to get it out here. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired.
And welcome to episode number 2 of Two Bad Hombres with yours truly, Vito Turco, and my sidekick, my partner in crime as usual, the Doc from Doc and Jock, John Macaroon. John, how is it going?
Vito, great. Just came back from Oakland U's practice ahead of the Metro Series that will have taken place Friday. I know this recording comes out Saturday, but I was excited to check it out. A big game will have taken place, Oakland University versus the Detroit Mercy Titans. We both have connections to both schools, and it's just nice to get out there a little bit, see practice, see how the squads are, preparing for such a big game. So doing that, enjoying podcasting. I'm looking forward to talking to you a little bit about, this podcast is going to be fun. We're going to talk a little bit about pop culture, a little bit about sports, a little bit about everything. And I had a great time at a movie recently, so I'll try my hand at a movie review, and one that came out over the Christmas break, and it was hilarious. I took the wife out for a date, and I look forward to the review. But what are you looking forward to on the Two Bad Hombres podcast?
Well, we have to talk about Friday the 13th, about some scary stories that we can come up with that would incorporate some dangerous elements, some very frightening elements. So we'll have to discuss that, and I want to start off with that. But I have a new segment I want to debut as well in the second episode of Two Bad Hombres, and it is Vito's bad tweet of the week. So, and it's not like, in the logical sense or the strict definition of bad. I think you kind of get my drift. It's not just a strict definition of what a bad tweet, what you would think of one being a bad tweet. So it will be something that we have some fun with, and something that has a way of incorporating the Grayson Allen tripping incidents of late. So it ties in with that. But first, it is almost Friday the 13th, and this podcast being released the day after Friday the 13th, Doc, want to get into that topic, though, first and foremost on this episode of Two Bad Hombres. And I had asked you last night, when I sent you the outline for the show topics for this week, about a scary story that you could come up with for this week that would tie in with the Friday the 13th theme. So what do you have for me right now?
Okay, well, the end of the year happened for the Detroit Lions. Okay, so at the end of the year, you have the end of the year press conferences, you have a recap of what was going on. So I have a scary story, and the scary story ends up being involving my Detroit Lions, and it involves 2 words, Caldwell extension, meaning that Bob Quinn will have given a press conference at 3 o'clock on Thursday, and at that press conference, the reporters will ask about the season, they'll ask about Stafford, and inevitably, they'll ask about Jim Caldwell. And obviously, he's under contract until 2017. But in my worst nightmare, Friday the 13th, I would say that the headline on that day in the news and the Free Press, which you contribute to, which I read first, would read, 5-year extension, Jim Caldwell. Oh, I would be I would be frustrated. I'd be pissed. And hell, I'd be even scared to even watch what this team could do in the next 5 years. With Stafford and Caldwell, I'd be scared crap. I would just be out of this world, livid, upset, scared, all wrapped into one.
You would be crapping yourself, wouldn't you, if that came to fruition? And for me, it's Brad Ausmus getting extended 4 or 5 years. But I wanted you to actually discuss with me a very scary incident that could occur maybe at your house, a break-in that would really frighten you, something of that sort. So, we discussed the sports-related incident that could really shock us and scare the crap, right, the living day out of us. But how about just something that could be life or death that really would scare you? For me, it's somebody breaking in like at night, because I work at the Free Press twice a week at night when it's pitch dark, especially during the winter, obviously. I get home late, early in the a.m. at times, at midnight, 12:30, because that's what I'm doing right now for the Free. So they better enjoy it, better appreciate what I'm doing for the prep sports crew at the Free, which I thoroughly enjoy most of the time. And the thing is here, when I get home, there's nobody else up at my house, at my parents' home. I'm living at home with my parents right now, and my brother Dominic, who's a frequent guest of Tiger Suck of Turco and Company. That drops every single Wednesday. Anyways, for me, I would be all by my lonesome. If somebody were to break in at that point or to follow me home when I'm driving home and follow me up my driveway as I'm going into my house, that would scare the living crap out of me. That would be a story for me that I could relate to Friday the 13th in that theme.
One probably mistake I probably made with my kids was I was coming home from the mall one day and I saw this plume of smoke. And like an idiot, I drove towards it. And literally a house on Hayes and 23 Mile or Hayes and 22 Mile in, I think, Shelby Township was on fire. A house literally was on fire, and I'll show you after we're done recording. I took a video of it while I was driving. I was like, oh my God. So a big fear of mine would be like, because I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, honey, please clean up the garage. There's a bunch of clutter. We got 2 freezers in there. We got bikes. We got too much stuff. I think it's a fire hazard. But my biggest fear would be like a fire that happens and maybe you touch a door to try to get out and it's hot. But I don't believe in Friday the 13th. I'm not superstitious like that. I am aware of it. But I don't believe in that fearful Friday the 13th nonsense. But
I don't believe in that superstition either of something just happening that's crazy and crazy bad to you. I don't think it's about that. So when something does happen bad to somebody on Friday the 13th, come on, give me a break. It's not about, hey, this bad omen that relates to Friday the 13th. So I don't believe in that either. I just wanted to kind of play it up here on Two Bad Hombres. And another thing is, I had another incident happen very close to my house on 16 Mile in Moravian in Clinton Township, Michigan. And it had to deal with, you remember the clown craze? Creepy ass clowns just being out late at night and in weird spots, weird locations like at car washes. Well, guess what? There was a weird, crazy clown at a car wash nearby my home on 16 Mile in Moravian once again. Scared the crap out of me. Now, luckily, I didn't see it, but hearing about that story, Doc, scared the living you-know-what out of me because then I feel, well, as I already brought up, going home late at night from the Free Press, having a creepy clown come and follow me home, like surprise me when I'm walking into my house or opening up the garage, and like being inside the garage when I walk inside the garage, that would scare the living crap out of me. So I would say something like that relates to Friday the 13th. And I really thought that clown craze would really come to fruition to its highest degree on Halloween. I thought all those clowns were coming out to scare kids, their parents, and to cause some damage, like severe damage, and could cause injuries, death, or something. I thought like the worst case scenario could happen with those clowns. Luckily, that never occurred on Halloween this past year, 2016, that is. So we avoided that, but I still had that fear in the back of my head after I found out that a creepy clown, was found nearby at a car wash on 16 Mile in Moravian. Very close, once again, to where I live right now, Doc. So that's a story that I think definitely relates to Friday the 13th.
You know what a lot of people are actually scared of around the time of January 20th?
What is that?
There's going to be a new president.
Yes. We have to discuss that, don't we?
Yes, and I think that's a perfect segue to talk about Donald Trump. We're going to talk about the week that was for him and what happened at the Golden Globes as well. But I first obviously want to get your take on what happened was on Wednesday, Adam and I were recording the Doc and Jock podcast, and he was a little bit late, so I got a chance to watch the entire press conference, one that he hadn't had in so many months or so, and people had a lot of questions. What the first thing that I noticed was, which was very interesting, was that reporters were asking like 4- and 5-part questions that were totally unrelated, and Donald Trump even caught on and started making quips like, dude, do you have any more? And the news that came out of Donald Trump talking was he looked at a reporter and he discussed with Jim Accorsi from CNN. And I got the clip here and I'll play it for you. But what in essence happened was a report came out regarding Trump's interactions with Russia. BuzzFeed got it. And somehow or another, news came out and was kind of dissected by CNN. And I think Donald Trump went a little bit too far in terms of, inaccurately talking about how CNN covered it. Yes, CNN is a little bit slanted. They are more liberal than most, but I do think they do a fair job. But you have to know going into it, they are kind of more critical of Donald Trump. They are kind of not trying to, puff him up like Fox News is.
But let me say this, Doc, really quick, not to interrupt you, which I think we always do to each other, but here's a good point. CNN really helped him when he started out the process of running for president. Remember that? Really, they rose his platform to the highest level. So they puffed him up at first. Now they're criticizing him and being critical of him. I think Donald J. Trump, the future president now, is forgetting that very note. CNN did a lot of good for him at first.
And I do believe we're going to be talking a lot about this upcoming president because, not in terms of pop culture, but in terms of the fact that whenever he talks in front of a microphone, he makes news. He's so polarizing. He is a reality star businessman that ran for office in the course of 18 months, has taken hold of this country. He's polarizing. You either are really for him and want to see what he's about, or you really think that the country is on the verge of a disaster. So I want to get your take on what he tells this reporter, and does he do a disservice? I know a lot of people said, whoa, when he does that and makes a concerted effort to make that comment, he basically is ending freedom of the press. So I want to play this and see what you think about with Donald Trump calling out a CNN reporter and not even letting him follow up and rebut.
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are
is
attacking
terrible.
our news organization.
Your organization
Can you give us a
is
chance
terrible.
to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can
Quiet.
you state,
Quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you state
She's asking
categorically,
a question.
Mr.
Don't be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you
No,
give
I'm
us
not
a
going to give you a
question?
question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
Go ahead.
can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not
Go ahead.
appropriate.
President Obama.
So Donald Trump stares at the reporter, and he's trying to, in essence, really discredit CNN. And I don't know what you think about it. You're a journalist, but I go, wow, what an interesting thing that guy did. He basically, later on in the press conference said, listen, you can report accurately, inaccurately, but one thing that's not going to happen is I'm not going to sit by and take it. I got this big microphone, and I'm going to use it. And he goes, I'm going to respond, and I don't know if you guys are used to it or not, but I'm going to respond to each and everything that's said, and I got a big platform, so be careful. But what was your reaction? So obviously I know you probably weren't watching it at noon on a Wednesday. What's your reaction to Donald Trump talking to the nation, calling out a reporter on CNN?
Calling CNN fake news is invalid, horrible, uncalled for, inexcusable, every single adjective that you can throw out there. It is. It applies to that situation when he's your future president and he's calling out CNN in that degree not to allow the reporter, an accomplished, credible reporter, to ask his question to the future president who's about to be sworn in as the next president on January 20th. Rapidly approaching that date is. And it's scary to realize and to see the writing on the wall that he could be doing this to thousands of reporters now during his 4 years in the White House. I mean, how is that even fair? Doesn't even come close to fair. And there's been no precedent for this. You know, there's been nothing like this in the past, nothing established where a president has ever treated the media, members of the media, like this. And it's not right. Once again, it's uncalled for, and it's taking away from the freedom of the press. The press can ask you, if they're in that press conference, allowed to attend the press conference, why can't they ask any question that they desire? No matter how stupid it may be, you've got to entertain the question, at least hear it out, then you answer it. Then if you don't like the question, you can say whatever you want in response to it and call that reporter out if it's invalid, not credible, not relevant, whatever you may say about it. Thing is, though, you got to allow the reporter to first and most importantly, ask the question. He or she deserves that right as a reporter, paid by a legit organization that is a legit, not just legit organization, but legit media entity. And CNN, that's been around for how long now? Come on. They are legit. And once again, they really led to the rise of Donald Trump, to his validity as a presidential candidate. And now he's calling out CNN and calling CNN as fake news. This guy, once again, that's accomplished, incredible. It's not right. It's a disservice to the nation and to members of the media like me.
Exactly. And if you disagree with the report, you don't call a news entity fake news. What you have to do is talk about what they said about you and report what you think is the actual truth. All you got to do is basically spin it like Fox News does. Just spin it back in your favor and say, listen, I know that this is the way it's being presented. This is why I believe the story is, this is why I believe this is my thought and this is what I want to do. This is a debate. And I think what Donald Trump is exacerbating and what we're starting to see is that, and I see it all the time too, in my practice, I see it outside in terms of just observing people. People do no longer know how to debate. And I think that's the biggest issue that we're seeing in this country is that when two people disagree about something, okay, and especially now in the world of politics, what happens is it's not a continued discussion. What ends up happening is emotion gets involved and people start insulting each other. They start taking things way too personally, and you can't just have a dialogue, okay? And so that's why people like, I think, talking to me is that I'm able to have my personal stance, and I'm also able to say, listen, I perfectly respect what you're saying. I see what your point of view is. This is my point of view. And when there is a point where we disagree, we say, okay, we agree to disagree. I respect you. You respect me. And I had a disagreement with Justin Rogers from the Detroit News on Twitter. And the same kind of thing happens, is that he disagreed with my point, so he started to label me whether I'm a fan or a podcaster and whatever. And I said, listen, that's fine. You can label me whatever you want, but my point is still, and the debatable point I want to make is about, Jim Caldwell and Bob Quinn. So what I think people have a struggle with is they start either going down the road of insulting people or they start going to dominate a debate. And I think people tend to want to too much. They want to win the argument. And for me, what makes it great is I just want to understand the other person's argument. I don't try to, you know me, I don't think I've tried to convince you to change your stance and how wrong you are in your beliefs and have you come over to the right side in what I believe. I don't think I've done that at all, but I listen to everything that you have to say and I respect you and I have you here in front of me talking. So that's what I hope we can do is respectfully debate. And when I disagree with you, I'm just going to cut off your mic.
Good, and that's fair, right?
I think it's 100% fair.
Not at all, but you know what? The thing is, you talked about people not having proper dialogue anymore, even when they disagree. How about Donald Trump, though? If he didn't agree with Jim Acosta, he's a senior White House correspondent for CNN.
And wait, and just to preface it, I don't believe you are a Trump supporter, right?
No, I think you can tell.
Oh, I just now cut off Vito's mic because, when you disrespect the president on the platform of the Detroit Sports Podcast, I might not allow you to talk on the mic. But I brought you back on, Vito.
Oh, thank you so much. Aren't you a nice individual all the time to me, no matter what I may think and may disagree with you upon, such as Donald Trump and you supporting him, even though you didn't vote for either candidate, so you're not a strong supporter of Hillary or Donald J. Trump. But I can tell you have more ties to him and to the Republican Party, maybe, or at least to Donald J. Trump and his antics, his ways. Thing is, his mannerisms, him insulting this reporter, not allowing this reporter to get in a question is totally uncalled for. It just, unconstitutional? I mean, couldn't you call that unconstitutional almost? I mean, it eliminates freedom of press. He's taking away the rights of these reporters, credible, accomplished reporters. This guy, Jim Acosta, once again, a senior White House correspondent for CNN, a guy that's done this forever. He served as a national political correspondent for CNN in the past. And he's done this for years as a media member. And you take away his right to ask a question, and that doesn't lead to proper dialogue. That takes away from that as well when you have differing sides. And it's good to have differing sides, but like you said, we need that proper dialogue. And when you don't allow somebody to have the platform to ask a question, even though he is in the press conference to do so, as an acting member of the media, that is taking away from his right as a member of the media and the right of people to have freedom of the press. And that's a constitutional right. So almost you could say not only was Donald J. Trump in the wrong and what he did was uncalled for, but it was unconstitutional to a certain extent. And now the thing is, you started with this in his first press conference after being elected president, and now in future press conferences, does he keep playing this card where he just cuts off people from asking their questions? And when they're from CNN, a legit media organization, once again, you can't be doing that, and it looks bad for Donald J. Trump and his White House administration, to say the least, Doc.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I just think that there's better ways of handling it. It's inappropriate. I just think that Donald Trump, now that he's got this big responsibility, this big platform, he's got to find a way to really bring people together. Whether he is trying to unite the nation or not, whether his intentions are that or not, he has to realize that the things that he is saying are dividing the country, and he's got to work on bringing people together. And there still is this divide, and I know he's trying to get his points out. He's just got to do a much better job. And on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about the other news regarding Donald Trump in the week, in that at the Golden Globes, I didn't get a chance to watch it in full because I was out on a date night with the missus, and it'll be part of my movie review. But Donald Trump was also part of the Golden Globes because Meryl Streep had some controversial things to say, and I'm fascinated to get your point of view on the other side of the break on
Two Bad Hombres.
Stay with us. Doc here for the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Thank you for your continued support and allowing us to keep the studio lights on, the microphones hot here at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. If you like what you're listening to, you like the variety of podcasts that you hear, definitely check out our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. That's the easiest way to support us. You get all the news from the network. You can check out the work from Vito, myself, all the guys that are putting out great content almost each and every day. And hey, if you're prone to shop online, click through that Amazon banner, go about your business, shop, and then when you're on that Amazon page, just bookmark it. Anytime at all that you make an online purchase, it kicks us back a little something and helps us keep this project going. We've been going strong since 2013, and that's been largely due to the support of our supporters, and we greatly appreciate it. Detroit Sports Podcast.com.
Day and night, the lonely loner seems to free his mind at night. He's all alone through the day and night. The lonely loner seems to free his mind at night. At night.
And back here on the episode dose of Two Bad Hombres with the Doc from Doc and Jock, John Macron. I am Vito Jerome Churko for this fine podcast and an edition in which we will talk about Donald J. Trump highly and have to talk about now Meryl Streep, this famous and accomplished, revered actress.
I thought she was overrated.
God, wasn't that a mistake? And him tweeting out stuff like that. We've got to talk about his Twitter 2 activity. But her having a platform to speak her mind about the election, what happened, Donald J. Trump and him and his antics and how he is, I think was more than fine and called for. And, if Jim Acosta can't have his way and speak his mind, ask the question that he wants of Donald J. Trump, is Trump going to try to, take away these actresses, actors, these people in the arts' rights from speaking their minds? And you know what? We've got to listen to these people and their perspectives. And I think she expressed a very valid point or 2 or 3 at the Golden Globes, to say the least, as well, Doc. Something I didn't watch live either, but I've since watched it, and it was very entertaining, very intriguing, to say the least, Doc.
Well, I was more of a fan when they had Ricky Gervais on, because Ricky Gervais would attack the people in the room. You could tell that Jimmy Fallon made a concerted effort to go the easy route. I mean, really, in essence, it's lazy comedy to just make jokes about Donald Trump because he knew he'd favor support from those in the room. I always liked it when Ricky Gervais came and hosted, because when he came out, oh my God, he would roast those right in front of him. And some of the jokes that he made when he initially did it, do you remember the first time that he hosted the Golden Globes? There was a little bit of an outrage because of the things that he was saying, and the insults kind of rubbed people the wrong way. But they did bring him back after a couple of years, and I just love Ricky Gervais. I love what Tina Fey and Amy Poehler did when they hosted it as well, but Jimmy Fallon took the easy road, and I didn't think that making a bunch of Donald Trump jokes was, probably the best way to go comedically. You could have went a lot of other different ways as well. Obviously, you do it, but I think that in terms of hosting, Jimmy Kimmel does a much better job than Jimmy Fallon.
And you like Kimmel a lot more than Jimmy Fallon. I probably like Jimmy Fallon a lot more than Jimmy Kimmel. So we have a debate here, because I know you're like a long,
table that,
lasting.
Write that
fan.
down. Write that down, because you're absolutely wrong.
I know you would say that.
Your mic's going to get cut off next week, because
you can cut it off as many times as you want, but I will never sway from that opinion that I like. Okay, it's hard to say Jimmy Fallon's better than Jimmy Kimmel. I know Kimmel's more accomplished. He's done it for a longer period of time, with a late night gig as well, even than Jimmy Fallon. But I think Fallon's good in his own right. I think he's very good, a very good comic, and a guy that you can say is better with what he offers than Kimmel. And because they do offer something different, right? They really do, I would say. And Kimmel might be a little bit more hardcore with his humor, a little bit more.
I'm going to instruct my attorney general to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation, because there has never been so many lies, so much deception. There has never been anything like it. And we're going to have a special prosecutor. When I speak, I go out and speak. The people of this country are furious.
What a crappy take you just had there. And like I said, I'm not going to go into my full-on support of Jimmy Kimmel, because I think it'll be a good segment for our next podcast. But you're absolutely wrong on so many levels that it's not even worth my time in this 5-minute span that we're going to talk about this and Meryl Streep. But you're totally wrong.
But really quick, hey, thanks to Donald J. Trump for making a cameo on this week's podcast. And he is our next president. Wow, wow, wow. To all those who supported Donald J. Trump. Now, I think you can tell who I support a little bit more. Anyways, I support Meryl Streep and what she said. And, Doc, can we play that clip maybe about what she did actually say at the Golden Globes? Yeah,
let's set the scene. So, Meryl Streep wasn't in an avenue or a place where she was making a political speech. She was at the Golden Globes in front of her colleagues and the people that love her. And the level of drama that she created for an award ceremony was out of this world. And I'll play it, but I'll try to set the scene in terms of what these actors look like as she's speaking. They literally look like that they were about to lose their 401k or lost all their investments. They're almost crying. They're almost looking like, yes, Meryl. Yes, you say your piece.
Whatever
Yes.
you say, Mayor.
Yeah, and I'll talk a little bit and set the scene if you haven't watched it yet. But we'll play a little bit of it. She's accepting, the Cecil B. DeVille Award for, outstanding achievement. And this is what she says in her acceptance speech.
But there was one performance this year that stunned me. It sank its hooks in my heart. Not because it was good. There was nothing good about it. But it was effective and it did its job. It made its intended audience laugh and show their teeth. It was that moment when the person asking to sit in the most respected seat in our country imitated a disabled reporter, someone he outranked in privilege, power, and the capacity to fight back. It kind of broke my heart when I saw it, and I still can't get it out of my head because it wasn't in a movie. It was real life. And this instinct
Now they're panning to the crowd. Everyone's looking all stern and serious.
Modeled by someone in the public.
Like a eulogy.
By someone powerful. It filters down into everybody's life because it kind of gives permission for other people to do the same thing. Disrespect invites disrespect. Violence incites violence. When the powerful use their position to bully others, we all lose. Okay, go up with that thing. Okay, this brings me to the press. We need the principled press to hold power to account, to call them on the carpet. That's why our founders enshrined the press and its freedoms in our Constitution. I only ask the famously well-heeled Hollywood foreign press and all of us in our community to join me in supporting the Committee to Protect Journalists, because we're going to need them going forward, and they'll need us to safeguard the truth.
All right, Vito, you just heard that. And for me personally, I just look at it like this. I think she used her platform in a way that she felt was best. Me personally, I don't agree with it. I'm of the opinion that I value a little bit less what celebrities and what the president kind of says and things like that. And the way I look at it is I'm a guy that just realizes, hey, you do the right thing, you treat people with respect, and you don't have to view and sit on every word that a celebrity says. Because obviously, if someone's saying something that's disrespectful or something along the lines that I know doesn't agree with me, I don't do it. I'm not influenced by a celebrity. I'm not influenced by the president. And for those people that look at that speech, those celebrities in that room were hanging on every word like it was gospel. And I look at it like this. She used a platform that was, in an essence, a spot that was, celebrating her, and she turned it political. And for me personally, I just look at it and I say, I'm a respectful person. I was brought up to treat people with respect and things like that. And if people say those things, I'm not influenced to be, I'm not going to become a bully and start mistreating you because you're a little person because of Donald Trump. And so I just think she used the platform in an inappropriate fashion. Just say, hey, accept the award, go about your business, and keep it light. Why make it political is what I would say.
But how about those that are of the little people, and not in terms of height like me, but they don't have the power, the rights that others do, such as her in her field, in her industry, where she is one of the most revered actresses of all time, too, now.
So when Donald Trump did that, how did you experience it? Did you feel disrespected?
Well, I felt that if you're mocking a disabled reporter and literally doing so, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts that he was mocking him, well, then it's uncalled for. It's not right. It offends me and other people, I would say, that are of the little person condition. And you know what? People with other disabilities out there that see that have a kid or that have a disability, him or herself, and then see the future president, the next president of the United States of America, a man in the highest position possible in the nation, saying that or mocking a person with the disability. That offended me, yes, because it's not right, Doc, and we can't take it with a grain of salt because you know what? There are people that don't know wrong from right from wrong, because look at these athletes committing domestic abuse. Now, we know better. We're not going to do that to a woman, to our wives, girlfriends, whatever, but the thing is, those athletes don't understand that, and that's why they need to be taught that, and this is like one of those platforms where a person of her power can do so. You
just said it right there. How come you said you and I aren't going to do that? What separates us?
You and I, well, maybe we're of a higher intellect, and I don't think we're of the highest intellect out there. I know I'm not. I don't think you are, even though I bow down to you as a podfather of the DSP network all the time. But truthfully or realistically, look at these players going through these rookie, combines, listening to, or symposiums, listening to speakers. Chris Carter maybe didn't make the best statement the one time when he said you have to have a fall guy, okay? But there's others that are valid speakers delivering valid messages about what to do on and off the football field. Don't those young athletes need that? And us as young people, you're still young kind of yourself in your mid-30s, need that lesson once in a while about what to do, or at least when you were growing up. When you were my age, and think about it, if you didn't have a mom or dad like you did, and if I didn't have a mom or dad like I do right now, do you think I'd be as good, maybe as well off as I am right now? Because a lot of what we do as people growing up is about the household that we grow up in, right?
And I think you brought up a good point in that I think in this podcast, we'll try to raise the intellect of those that are listening. And the idea is this. If you, by the time you're 18 to 21, don't realize, hey, there's a certain way to treat people and there's a certain way not to treat people, you're going to make mistakes here and there. But I think the bigger picture is, and what has happened in the last 20, 30 years, that's probably been the biggest detriment to society is the overvaluation of athletes and celebrities and politicians in terms of the effect on people's mood and behavior. I go like this. I hit my nose to the grindstone. I view the presidential type stuff as something to look at to see kind of where the pulse of the country is. But day to day, that stuff doesn't affect me because Mr. Trump, Meryl Streep, Brad Hombres, they're not paying my bills. So I got to get up and go to work, treat people well, do the best that I can. And I keep them, their function and what their impact is on my life to a minimum. Seriously. And I think you said it yourself. You and I know that whatever Donald Trump says, whatever Meryl Streep says, good or bad, has relatively small effect on me. And I just think my personal opinion is it was the wrong platform for her to go about saying that. And it really didn't need to be said. I really believe that most people know that pay attention, realize that actors and the majority of, liberal people are not supportive of the things Donald Trump does. I just think that, and I don't think she needs to say that the media needs to continue to be a watchdog. I don't believe that Jim Acosta, I don't believe CNN is just going to fold up and say, okay, you know what, we're fake news, we're done. They're going to keep
They're not folding anytime soon.
They want to keep their access. But I'd say, hey, sometimes the access is even more detrimental than not having access because once you get that access, it might be skewing your journalistic integrity and perception anyway. So I just think that CNN doesn't want to be called fake news in the perception of their business. But in essence, just do a better job. And if you do a good job, people will watch you. And that's just the name of the game. And in life, do the best that you can personally, reach your own goals, treat people with respect, and keep it simple. Treat people with respect, work hard, go about your business. All this is just noise, in my opinion.
Well, people will keep watching CNN and keep valuing Acosta as a valuable member of the media community. He's well-respected, will continue having that right to be respected because he's accomplished so much, and CNN has as a news organization itself. But I think her speech was more about the young people out there who are seeing our president get away with so much, Doc. I mean, that's a problem right there. How much he's gotten away with to rise to the presidency. That is the problem right there. Plain and simple, Doc, because now these young people growing up and maybe in some households that aren't as well as the ones that we grew up in, Doc, are thinking if he can get away with it, he's the president of the United States, why can't I get away with it? Right? I mean, that's the problem here. And that's what she was trying to state, I believe, the message she was trying to convey when she was saying that disrespect incites or invites disrespect and violence invites violence, incites that. It does truly, and I think it's a lesson for those young people out there.
Vito,
and especially if they're not in the best households, they don't have the best upbringing.
What I'm saying is,
that's my point.
It doesn't take you to pinpoint Donald Trump to say that. We could just say that in general. Be a good person. Don't be violent. Don't be disrespectful. You don't have to include Donald Trump's name because
no, but I'm saying they see him disrespecting others, like him mocking that reporter. Then you think, oh, I can go mock a disabled person or mock a little person. Don't you think that's true a little bit?
All Meryl Streep had to do, in essence, was, and you got to realize CNN has a part in why Donald Trump rose to power.
That's what he talked about.
You
big
talked
time.
about him 24/7,
yeah,
and you rose his stature. All Meryl Streep has to say, she doesn't have to include Donald Trump. She can discuss it in a roundabout ways. Just say, hey, listen, we live in a country that needs to respect people more, and I truly believe, I hope in the next 4 to 8 years that this country can get to a point where all cultures can be respected, all foreigners can be respected. You don't have to include Donald Trump's name in anything. Just go out there, say your platitudes. You don't have to include the president in it. Just say, listen, I believe in a country that, respects everybody, and I believe in this and that. You don't have to say those kind of things. Everyone kind of knows that. I do believe that as an adult, by 18 years old, you should realize or have somebody come in your life and tell you that, hey, it's not okay to disrespect anybody. It's not okay to use insulting names. And whoever does it is wrong. You don't need to include Donald Trump, and that's my final take on it.
So really quick, his Twitter activity, is that wrong? He's almost going to be the president now, being sworn in on the 20th. And should he still have the right to tweet out whatever he wants off the cuff? And it seems like even when he's on the toilet, he's just firing off tweets from his phone, whatever the phone may be. Probably has like 3, 4, 8 phones.
Do you see the
think that's right?
Do you see the number of retweets? I think he's allowed to, but the content definitely needs to change. It's one of those things where he does use it in a way that, can be viewed by a lot of different people, and he's got to watch what he says. It should be more presidential, in my opinion, but he hasn't. He just goes off the cuff, but he is reaching his people that way. So for him personally, he is utilizing the new age social media to get across what he needs to, and that's his way of defending himself. But I would think that I would have continued to let somebody else run it and just make it about public relations for Donald Trump. Just make it about stating your message, replying to things. But yeah, going and calling Meryl Streep overrated is ridiculous, because that invites people to criticize you because Meryl Streep is one of the most revered actresses in the world. So, but you know what, Vito, it's been a good conversation. I know we're going to talk about Donald Trump probably a lot more, and I do agree with you probably in that he should kind of watch what he tweets about. And it's going to be one of those things where if you want to remove the lightning rod, just give the people a little bit less to talk about.
That would work out in his favor, too, if he doesn't want to be criticized as often. Hey, don't tweet out as many asinine, right, stuff. That's what I think, too, with Trump and the Twitter activity, and it needs to be curtailed, and I believe it will be. If it's not, we're going to keep calling him out here on this very podcast, Two Bad Hombres. Now, you have a very fine movie review to deliver, and what is it about this week, Doc?
Yes, I'm a guy that likes movies. One of the things I like to do is relax, and I'm a Netflix guy. I watch a lot of movies. I've probably seen now about 200 movies on Netflix in the last 3 years. A lot of good ones, a lot of so-so ones, but there still is no better experience than getting out to the theater, and I love this time of year around Christmas and March of my birthday because all I ask for is movie tickets, gift cards, things like that. So I used my Christmas gift from the in-laws, and I went to Imagine Theater. Man, I want to give them a plug. There's no better place to watch a theater.
Sit back, relax, drink a cerveza if you wanted to as well now.
Have some decent food ordered to your seat. It's a nice, comfortable environment. Not too bad of a ticket price, $10. So me and the missus went out and we saw Office Christmas Party. And let me tell you, there's kinds of raunchy movies, and then there's, over-the-top raunchy movies. And this one was well-placed, well-timed comedy. I laughed throughout. Now, there's extreme comedy movies like Sausage Party, where it's just overtly raunchy and over the top, and it's hard to watch all the way through. But this movie, Office Christmas Party, has a very basic premise in that this guy has a company that was given to him by his dad, but the mean, nasty sister comes to town, and Jennifer Aniston, and she wants to take over the company. And the guy's kind of trying to bring back the vibe of when the dad was there, and he kind of recalls old Christmas parties, old memories, and things like that. And the movie was so hilarious that it just kept you laughing the entire time. And the premise, goes further, talking about, hey, we should do a Christmas party to get this, to try to make a good case for our company to impress a client. And Jennifer Aniston is totally against it, but she was going off to London, and they thought that, okay, good, the mean witch is gone. Let's throw a massive party, try to get this account. Because Jennifer Aniston had the premise of telling them, listen, if you land this account, and you get about 14 to 15 million in business for this company, I won't shut you down. Because she was threatening them, saying, oh, this company's not making any money. She set unrealistic expectations for growth. So everybody was fearful that they were going to lose their job. And the supporting cast of Jason Bateman and Olivia Munn were awesome. They were kind of the hardcore invested workers. So they throw this amazing Christmas party, and the jokes are funny. They're well-timed. Anytime you film a party, festive type thing, it's fun to watch. And it was well acted. It was, the jokes were, the raunchy jokes were well timed. But if this is spoiler alert, so if you want to fast forward it, the funniest scene is when Jennifer Aniston is sitting in the airport lounge awaiting her flight, which of course gets canceled. So she has to go back to discover that, oh my God, my brother's having this party. So she's sitting there getting pissed off at the lounge staff and wondering, how am I going to get to London, even though there's a snowstorm? So she's getting pissed off, and there's this little girl right in front of her. So she's getting all mad, and the girl had taken her candy or taken something from Jennifer Aniston. So Jennifer Aniston looks at her and just drops the F-bomb right to her. It was hilarious to see this well-esteemed actress just cussing out a little girl. So it was funny all the way through. I think it's well worth your time. If you want to, it still might be in theaters. It's well worth your investment to go check it out. Jason Bateman and Olivia Munn do a great job. They're great actors. Jennifer Aniston does a great job. And all in all, it's a fun, light movie. And if you want to get back into the Christmas spirit a little bit and not let it die out here in January, go definitely check out Office Christmas Party. The DOC gives it 2 thumbs up, baby. It's a great movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Jennifer Aniston is one of the finest looking women in the nation, in the world today, right? We can say that.
She still got it.
She still got it, and she has aged like fine wine, hasn't she? Jennifer Aniston has. And really quick, Olivia Munn is married to whom? You should know this.
Aaron Rodgers.
Absolutely.
Lucky
Roger
guy.
that.
Lucky
guy, indeed. And she's a lucky woman. Come on. She is as well.
What makes Olivia Munn great is she's got that hometown girl kind of feel. Like you just see her probably, you can imagine seeing her in the bar, just going and talking to her, having a conversation about sports. And that's what makes it really comes off on the screen as she's somebody that's relatable and you can do a lot of different things. And in any movie that I've seen her in, I've just enjoyed it thoroughly. So I give it 2 thumbs up. You'll enjoy it. You'll laugh. And if you check it out, definitely tweet us and let us know that you saw it and what you thought about it at 2 Bad Hombres on Twitter. And, from time to time when I go see a movie, I'll definitely review it here. But Office Christmas Party, you're going to want to see it. And I think next up for the misses is probably Why Him with James Franco and Bryan Cranston. It looked good on the previews. I think I'll probably review that one next. So good stuff, Vito. I know that you and I are both on Twitter quite a bit. A tweet that got out there was one that caught your attention. Before we get out of here, you'll tell me about the bad tweet of the week. And then we'll end the podcast with your editorial because I think you have something on your mind regarding a Duke player that's upset you. So we'll talk about the tweet and then we'll close it out with an editorial from my guy, Vito. What's up with this tweet, man? Tell me, hit me up.
So I'm starting a new segment on this podcast called Vito's Bad Tweet of the Week. And it actually relates to Grayson Allen of Duke, this young stud basketball player for the Duke Blue Devils. And is he a little bit cocky, arrogant, all of the above? Yes, but talented. But he has this tripping problem. Tripping players left and right. And my problem with him, a bone that I would like to pick with him, is in relation to that and a guy he tried to trip recently from Boston College, a man who went to De La Salle, my alma mater, for high school. Warren, Michigan is the location of it. And he was on the basketball team, this individual, when I was helping out as the student manager of the varsity basketball team. This kid, full of talent, a big man that can dribble at about, 6'5" plus. And he's a big dude. Let's just say that. His name is Connor Tavy. And he went to Western Michigan, transferred to Boston College now. He's a graduate transfer, with that being said. And BC played Duke recently at Cameron. And Connor had to deal with the Grayson Allen phenomenon. And this thing with Grayson Allen has become a national issue. A big-time national story, and he was suspended indefinitely after tripping an Elon player. And, the thing is, I think he should have been suspended more than a game. And then he comes back after the suspension in a game against BC and trips a friend of mine, a guy, once again, that went to high school with me. And I don't know why he hasn't learned. But the point of this is that there was a Sports Illustrated article that then came out talking about the incident, about Connor Tavy, that is from Boston College, being tripped by Grayson Allen, and actually almost being tripped once again. And the article didn't include the player's name, didn't include Connor Tavy's name at first. And he reacted to it, Connor did, on Twitter by saying, I have a name. Yes, he does. It's Connor Tavy. And the last name, even though I'm saying Tavy, it's spelled Tava. So they edited the story and then put in his name to kind of make up for their wrong. Because the thing is, they just put in a Boston College player. Why wouldn't you identify the player when you totally saw who it was with the jersey number, could have looked up the Boston College men's basketball roster and found out that man who Allen almost tripped was Connor Tavy. And a good soul, a good dude, a good player hopefully helping out BC after a big-time down season last season at Boston College. And he had to endure through the Grayson Allen national predicament, which has become his flair, his proneness, let's say, for tripping others. And then it looked like in a recent game, he shoved an assistant coach from an opponent. So this guy constantly in trouble with the refs, with stupid in-game fouls that he is making, and laying out his foot specifically to trip others when, come on, isn't that grade school or street ball garbage? Not even street ball or grade school garbage, because grade schoolers are taught even not to do that, that it's dirty, uncalled for, inexcusable, whatever adjective you want to use to describe it. It's just not right. There's no place in the game for it. And this kid seems like he's stuck up. He feels like, I think that he's earned something which he truly hasn't already, and that he deserves to be a guy that just doesn't have to deal with the repercussions of anything. And with those players that are stuck up, highly cocky / arrogant, you know what? You gotta, at some point, in this specific situation with Coach K being the head coach at Duke, he has to, and maybe he's already sat down with them, probably has, but when this stuff flares up in the future now, because this tripping stuff with Grayson Allen has happened numerous times now before. It's not just a one-time incident, against Elon. It wasn't just that one time this season. It's happened in the past as well. And he hasn't learned his lesson properly yet. And then you suspend him indefinitely and only give him a game. You would think an indefinite suspension means a long-term suspension that lasts 5 to 10 games, at least 5 games, in conference play as well, when it really matters to the player. That's when you really get into his head that, hey, this isn't right what you have been doing. You've got to get your act righted, and if you don't get this issue rectified, then you're going to have a big-time problem when you reach the NBA, too, because guys are not going to be putting up with that at the next level. They're going to be pushing you down, teaching you a lesson. And, hey, when they do so, hopefully he truly does learn his lesson, if it has to come to that. Because these guys, once they reach the NBA, too, they're like unapproachable. They don't want to be hearing a negative message from anybody. And so it feels like you've got to learn in college where you're in the college game. If you don't learn in college about what's wrong, what's right, what's wrong, well, then you're never going to learn it more than likely. So this is the time that Coach K, as his college head coach, should be teaching him that valid lesson. Getting this implemented, in his brain right now, that what he's been doing with the tripping, with the dirty plays, has to stop now. It can't be everlasting as he enters the pros. A guy that will be drafted more than likely in the first round, at least in the mid-first round. A guy that's uber talented once again, but has to get his act righted. If he doesn't get it turned around, well, guess what? You'll never be the best player that you possibly can be and the most respected that you can be. And right now, I think even it's that same issue for him. Players, when they look at him, they view him as this cocky, this selfish guy, this guy that is making stupid plays that doesn't deserve their full respect. For him to gain that from fellow players and coaches, he's gotta get this issue rectified, Doc, to say the least. And hopefully he does before he enters the pros.
Very good editorial, Vito. I agree with you on 100%.
Thank you very much, as you should always agree with me, and I agree with you, as we all have to hail the podfather of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Doc, thank you very much for another fine edition of Two Bad Hombres. Tune in again next week as we might dive into Chris Berman, who's going to replace him at ESPN, and how about his legacy? What should we remember about Boomer? And guys, we hope to dive into much more about Donald J. Trump, and I bet we will, Doc.
Oh, I'm sure we'll probably be talking about him a lot more in this podcast.
Thank you, guys, and have a great week. Talk to you next week.
I was trying to get it how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs.